Thank you. I'd like to call the April 5th, 2018 meeting of the Middletown Board of Education to order. Mrs. Knapp, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mission. Mr. Pierre, would you please read the mission of the enlarged city school district?
Mission of the enlarged city school district of Middletown. We strive to provide fiscally sound educational opportunities in a safe environment that continuously supports our diverse student population. We will enable all students to graduate, to reach their full potential, to become lifelong learners, and to be competitive, productive members of society.
Thank you, Mr. Pierre. Mrs. Clark, could you please call the roll? Here.
Here.
Yep.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda? So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Approval of the regular minutes of the March 15th, 2018.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now we go on to recognitions and announcements and community reports.
Could we do B and C first, Mr.?
I'm sorry?
Could we do B and C first?
B and C first. The
Please go to the O.C.I.A. That's what she's saying, B and C.
okay.
Do that. After that.
Sorry.
You want to do
Didn't
B?
know that.
That's what she wants. She wants to do.
It's okay.
I think we'll stick with the regular with our regular agenda. Thank you. This evening, we have an extremely important announcement concerning the leadership of the enlarged city school district of Middletown. And I'm going to begin, and then Bishop Williams will also take over when I'm finished. Here it is. I'm going to start with a quote. Satchel Paige, one of the finest baseball pitchers in the history of the game, unfortunately, because of his color, was not permitted to play in the major leagues until very late in his career, once stated, "Don't look back, someone might be gaining on you." In selecting a new superintendent when Dr. Eastwood retired on February 1st, as of February 1st, one of the prime criteria for the person selected was we did not and do not want to move this district backwards, not at all. We did not want to go back to the 55% graduation rate from the 89% that we are today. We can't do that. We won't. We did not want to go back to the day when potential homeowners avoided the district, largely because of the school system. We want to continue our nationally recognized programs, such as a 2-year K, blended learning, technology programs, midpoint mastery, and our free college and tuition programs for all of our students. We don't want to, most definitely don't want to go back to the bad old days when Middletown was designated as a district in need of improvement. You know, being selected to the League of Innovative Schools, one of the 52 districts, that's a lot better and it's a lot more satisfying. And most definitely, we don't want to go back to the days of social promotion, where children went from grade to grade without the academic prerequisites for the next grade, and finally dropped out of schools without a diploma because of frustration largely. 55% graduation rate, remember. We also prefer Presidential Park to the old Chorley School, which had issues with leaking, no air conditioning, on and on. Presidential Park serves our students a lot better. We don't want to be in the position of asking our athletes to use the fields of other districts to practice and hold events because of the facilities were in such deplorable conditions, and we had to do that at one time. We prefer Fowler Field, where state tournaments are held, which has brought us an estimated $11 million to the whole area. We don't want to return to the time where we had no marching band, no strings program, and very few musical performances. Not only do we not want to return to the past, but we also want the district to move forward. I'm going to quote another quote. Jim Hackett recently, he's the CEO of Ford Motor Company, recently stated, being frozen in the past is really a death sentence. In other words, we want a superintendent who can move this district forward right out of the box. We don't want someone who's going to take a year or year and a half just learning the district, which happens. We want a superintendent who can follow and enhance a 5-year plan adopted at the November 16th Board of Education meeting, entitled A Pedagogical and Academic Structure Needed to Maintain and Ensure Continued Growth Toward Proficient Future-Ready Graduates. I have personally been involved in one superintendent search, and one only. And that search brought Dr. Kenneth Eastwood to this district. Unfortunately, in the past, and I've been associated with this many, many decades, believe me, superintendents were hired and asked to leave for various reasons. 10 superintendents in 12 years. 10 superintendents in 12 years. Not an enviable record. First of all, it's costly to the district. It hurts the academic progress, and in very least, if it doesn't hurt, it inhibits progress. The focus groups were excellent. Believe me, it helped us take a look at ourselves, and Bishop Williams will go over some of the criteria that the focus groups placed as very important. The profile which emerged from the focus groups was an individual with unquestioned integrity, committed to improving student achievement and success, and with a proven track record of excellence. Now, I must say there were no internal candidates when Dr. Eastwood retired. We began the search almost immediately. As time went on, and it took a little while, one person decided to step up to the plate. A person of unquestioned integrity, a person who has an extensive knowledge of the district and district curriculum, a person who has been co-developer and implementer of many district programs, an individual who's been an instructor, a principal at both elementary and middle school levels, and has central office experience, and a person who is aware of the challenges faced by our district in the next few years. And believe me, folks, we do have a few challenges. We are pleased to announce this evening that Richard Del Moro has been appointed superintendent of schools effective July 1st, 2018. We are currently working on the contract. Mr. Del Moro, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Now, as I mentioned, the focus groups were very important to us. We sat down with Mr. Del Moro, and Bishop Williams is going to put all this together, what the focus groups desired and what Mr. Del Moro has done thus far for the district. Bishop Williams, go ahead.
I will be as brief as possible. We've got a long night ahead of us and a lot of recognitions ahead of us, but we don't want to minimize any of this. These are the desires that came out of some of the focus groups, of all the focus groups actually, and I will read some of the findings and then how Mr. Del Moro matches up with all these findings. First, ability to clearly identify problems and develop effective solutions. Mr. Del Moro has co-led the development of the High School of the Future with 103 plus tuition-free college courses supporting additional opportunities for our students to be successful upon graduation. Guided the expansion of the College and Career Center, offering additional awareness and opportunities for successful advancement toward a college scholarship. Successful development and implementation of curriculum-focused programs focusing on improved student academic outcomes across the K through 12 structure, which would include, but not limited to, college course access, 2-year kindergarten, midpoint K through 8, transitional K through 5, mastery K through 8. Person of unquestioned integrity. He has an unblemished professional record, dedicated member of the Middletown school community for 31 years, maintains an open-door policy supporting administrators and teachers in coaching, mentoring, best practices. The strong commitment to improving student achievement, student success. He developed standards-based curriculum, which led to the development of district scope and sequence framework. I'll skip down. A strong presence in the school community. He has been a part of the Middletown school community for 31 years and counting. Attended countless plays, evening award ceremonies, athletic events, school building events. Evidence of success in implementation of effective district financial practices. Supported the district with successful approval of annual budgets for the past 13 years. He oversaw the implementation of various federal and state grants over the past 13 years. Title funds, New York State Race to the Top, Federal Race to the Top, Safe Schools. And lastly, this will be the last one that I read, although it's not all of them, is capable of developing communication plans that build support for the district's missions and goals. He was part of the development of transparent communication for the entire school community. High school course catalog, scholarship guide, We Are Middletown booklet, literacy in action curriculum guidebook, various digital resources available on the district website. Without question, he has met all of the criteria that was found by the focus groups, and so we congratulate him on this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop Williams. Now, Mr. Del Moro, as we said that we want to move the district forward. Could you tell us, you've been in the superintendent's position since February 1st, and can you tell us what have you done since then? I'm putting you on the spot.
You sure are. But before I talk about some of the things we've initiated in a relatively short period of time, I want to thank the Board of Education publicly for their support throughout the years, as well as for the appointment to this very important position. I'm extremely grateful and humbled by your support, as well as the support I've received and will continue to receive, I'm sure, from the administrators and the teaching staff, the support staff, the students, as well as all the stakeholders in our school district. It's certainly been a pleasure to be part of this community for 31 years. You do not stay in a place that you feel uncomfortable or you feel that there's no hope and there's no future for our kids. I am really excited about the continuation of being creative with our programs, the development of these new programs on these creative ideas, and more importantly, the implementation of these ideas. But I realize that one person is not going to be responsible for the success, and I hope to galvanize all of the groups that are necessary to move our district forward. As we move forward into the next century, it's very important that we have safe schools, and we'll talk about that in our budget presentations this evening, about some of the things that we are doing to maintain that safety, not only for our students, but for our staff alike. It's important that everyone that comes into our buildings, parents, members of the community, students, staff, all support staff feel comfortable and safe. But also, are our programs meeting the challenges? And certainly, no one would like to say that we have no room for improvement. We certainly do. There's areas that we need improvement. Working together with the various groups that will be part of the development of these strategies to move our district forward are critical to working as a team, and I have no doubt we will continue to do that. As far as the number of days, barring all the snow days and delays that we've had this past few months, we've been looking at mental health programs that seem to be challenging our students today and perhaps impairing some of their potential successful experiences. We're also looking at various programs to meet more of the students' eclectic needs, whether it's in the academic arena, performing arts, or in the athletic or competitive fields throughout our programs. We are looking at expanding our college courses to meet more of the artistic and musical world talents in combination working with the Syracuse University in particular, and we're working collaboratively for an articulation to expand that program so that more children can be more, exposed to that rigor of learning and to perhaps meet some of their internal innate needs. Also, the fact that we want our schools to be safe by the way students respond to one another, respond to the teachers, and the teachers to the students, all a part of growth, so that we can build upon the areas in which we have been so successful. And this will be the key to our next movement. Also, we're looking at, as we move forward into the next generation of standards, the professional development opportunities for staff and administrators, so that we're all meeting those standards and exceeding those standards, so that we can improve upon our success that we have achieved over the last couple of years. So in terms of the few weeks that I've been in this role, I do think that there's been many areas that I am seeing that we need to look at, as I just mentioned some of them, but also we cannot be remiss in thinking about how well we have the student body to work with. One example, just one example of what Middletown is good and successful about is developing our students. Over the last, month or so, we've had all these national demonstrations about safety in our schools. Not only was a very peaceful walkout on the day we all had in early March, but just more recently on March 24th, we had our students talk to our community about positive discourse regarding some of their concerns. This doesn't happen in isolation. Therefore, I tip my hat to all of the teachers working with students, parents working with your children, etc. We welcome your prized possessions. They are your children and our students, but they are equal together. So I look forward to this role, and I thank all of you for your continued support.
Thank you, Mr. Moro. And people have asked me, we will be posting the position of Assistant Superintendent for Instructions almost immediately. Okay, now let us go on to recognitions. I believe we have some special recognitions this evening, correct, Mr. Del Moro?
Yes, we do. We have two special recognitions. I'm going to ask Mrs. Creedon to take care of the first one, which is the O.C.I.A.A. Section 9 champions.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Coates, the Director of Athletics, who will begin the program and the recognition.
Thank you, Mrs. Creedon. Superintendent Del Moro, great job, Board of Education, fantastic. I'm so ecstatic. This is a special evening for athletics. This is just a tremendous job by our coaching staff and our kids. Kind of a caveat to this is really what our kids are doing in the classroom and also what they're doing in the fall and in the winter, you know, in all of our sports. We've had tremendous success in multiple areas, but we're really most proud of what our kids are doing in the classroom. The New York State Public High School Scholar Athlete Program increased their standards this year, and we as coaches looked at it and we were, you know, struggling with it because it was an extreme increase in what the kids needed to achieve to receive this award. So we were thinking that it was going to be pretty challenging. So I have to give a lot of credit to all of our athletes and our coaches for reaching the standard, because 75% of your team has to be 90% or above. So this is an extreme accomplishment for all of our athletes that are in attendance tonight. So I can't be more proud as the athletic director to be up here and honoring our coaches and especially our athletes. So the first group I'd like to call up, I'd like to have Coach Hammer and Coach Hipsman come up for our recognitions for track and field.
First off, I'd like to congratulate Mr. Del Moro. It's been a pleasure working with you and look forward to working with you and your support for the track program for many years to come. Also, Mr. Perino and the school board, thank you for allowing us to come up and recognize our student athletes. And I say student athletes because for the athletes, the sports teams at Middletown, academics is number one, and we do a lot here in this school district to make sure academics are number one before they participate in sports. We work very hard on our track program to make sure that our kids are as best as they can be in the classroom before they step on the track. First off, I want to start, though, with our accomplishments on the track. We had a very good indoor season for our county championships. Okay, we won county championships in 6 different events, and I want to announce them right now. Stay seated, though, and then I'll announce the sections and then our scholar athletes. So first off, our county champion in the 300, Bria Oatman. Our county champ in the triple jump, Matt Quimby. Our county champ, she's a 2-time champion, county champion. She won the 1,500 meters and the 3,000 meters, Dana Lynch. And then our girls 4x200 meter relay broke their own school record 3 times this year, and they were county champs: Bria Oatman, Deja Bowen, Mercedes Jr., and Itziar de Clavijo. We also have our section championship meet, and we won the championship in 7 different events that time. Matt Quimby won the long jump and triple jump. Bria Oatman won the 300 meters. Dana Lynch won the 3,000, 1,500. And then our girls 4x2 won another section title. Bria Oatman, Deja Bowen, Mercedes Jr., and Itziar de Clavijo. After our section championship, we have our state championship, and we were able to get some athletes on the podium. Obviously, all of New York State's there competing in the different events, and our athletes went up and had another good showing up there. So we had at All-State in the 3,000 meters, Dana Lynch took 8th. And our girls 4x2 took 3rd in the state and 5th in the federation. Bria Oatman, Mercedes Jr., Itziar de Clavijo, and Deja Bowen. Now, the only thing that makes us more proud than that is our scholar athlete team. As Mr. Coates said, I'm not going to go into all the details, but when they said a certain percentage of your roster needs to be average 90 or above. We got a little nervous. Outdoor season, we have 215 kids on the team. So if you do the math, that's a lot of people to have 90 or above average. Now, we were up for the challenge. We just knew it was going to be a challenge. So our girls and boys stepped up this year. Our boys, I'm going to read off first. We consider these guys scholar athletes. They individually got a scholar athlete. We didn't get the 75% that we needed for that, but we still want to recognize our boys. We had 18 boys that averaged 90 or above for our scholar athletes. So I'm going to call your name, and if you could just come up. Mr. Perino, we're going to take a picture up here. Okay. You come up. Coach Hammer will have your certificate, and we'll go up on stage and take a picture, gentlemen. First is Isaiah Legrer. Matt Quimby. Dakota Young. Kevin Lindman. Janelle Foster. Elijah Hodges. Mike Jones. Nick Bowman. Joe Downs. David Menzies. Christopher Ndu. Samuel Ziek. Jesus Rodriguez. And Andres Barajan. At this time, we have a lot of girls, so I'm going to call them up so we can move this along a little. But we do want to recognize the importance of this. As I mentioned, 34 girls had averaged a 90 or above average, and that's huge for our track. This is the first time with the new standards that the girls team or any of the track team actually got the scholar athlete team. And as you can see, we'd like to get these shirts for these guys and girls. It's a custom shirt. Nobody else has them. It's just the people that make the scholar athlete team. We get them custom made, and it's just a little something to make them feel special for the effort that they put in their great academics. All right, for our ladies, Dana Lynch, Deja Chamberlain, Monique Blackwood, Rokia Singari, Destiny Smalls, Sitlali Marin, Sarah Rivera, Tiandra Green Wilby, Kelly Navarro, Ayana Latour Smalls, Carly Solomon, Emily Gonzalez, Jocelyn Garcia, Andrea Cortez, Alicia Furman, Michaela Ware Mercer, Itziar DeClavajo, Natasha Avilas, Cheyenne Clark, Anastasia Acerno, Deja Bowen, Alicia Cruz, Rosie Fernandez, Janelle Hamilton, Fabian Justin, Maya Mann, Tatiana McAllister, Aliari Moncada, Anicia Naismith, Bria Oatman, Tatiana Acasio, Naja Ogburn, Angelina Rodriguez, and Jennifer Rojas. Mr. Perino, if you could just stay there for 1 second. Real quick, Mr. Perino, when we first started doing these custom shirts for our Scholar Athlete team, Mr. Perino was a huge fan of these shirts, and so we have a Scholar Athlete shirt. Now, nobody has these besides the Scholar Athletes, so we're going to go back and check your grades and make sure you're on it, but you're going to get a honorary Scholar Athlete shirt from the Middletown track team. Thank you, Mr. Perino.
We don't have to check that transcript. Next this evening, we're going to go back to the fall. Our girls varsity swimming and diving team received the same academic standards of excellence with the New York State Public High School Athletic Association Scholar Athlete Award. Tonight, Coach Woodward is recovering from knee surgery, so we're going to have assistant coach Cindy Parisi come up and hand out the awards for the varsity girls swim team.
Good evening, everyone, and congratulations, Mr. Del Moro. This is an exciting night. Also, we thank the Assistant Superintendents Tuttle and Creedon, Principal Sorrentino, Mr. Coates, all the administrators here, and the school board president, Mr. Perino, and the whole Board of Education. Thank you for letting us award our swimmers and divers this evening. I'm very excited. Coach Woodward is very sorry he can't join you this evening for the ceremony, but he wanted me to make sure you know it's a very important recognition for all our student athletes. And it is with great pride that we join you this evening to honor our program and the other program's accomplishments. For many years, the girls swimming and diving program has made great efforts to earn the New York State Scholar Athlete recognition. Our girls really distinguished themselves this year by meeting the new stricter standards that were implemented this year. The 75% of all the team members, the standard really challenged everyone, as the track coaches said earlier as well. These girls accepted the challenge and pushed themselves to achieve the honor for the 25th time in the last 26 years. This year's team achievement was the most impressive academic performance in our team's history. So our honorees are as follows. Ladies, if you would come on up and see Mr. Coates for your certificate and come to the stage for a photo. Starting with 12th grader Andrea Barrero. Tenth grader Kimberly Campos Ortiz. 11th grader Elizabeth Cartwright. 7th grader from Twin Towers, student Kiara Donovan. And 7th grader Twin Towers student Erin Donovan. Yes, they're twins. 12th grader Grace Feely. She was actually our top student this season. Congratulations, Grace. 10th grader Olivia Ferrara. 9th grader Alicia Furman. 7th grader Monhegan student Alyssa Gomez. 7th grader from Twin Towers, Anaya Gonzalez. 10th grader Taya Lewis. 11th grader Andrea Moro. 10th grader Veda Ortiz. 7th grader Monhegan student Sophia Pham Aparicio. Don't see her. 8th grader Monhegan student Jalen Pitt. 9th grader Ava Rodriguez. and 7th grade Twin Towers student Dejanay Sadler. And last but not least, 7th grade Twin Towers student Madison Wood. Congratulations, ladies, and thank you, parents, for all your help.
Great job, girls. We have one more recognition this evening. It's a special winter accomplishment in wrestling. We have Coach Lichtenstein was unable to be here tonight as well. He had a family engagement that he had to attend, but he wanted me to present on behalf of him. So without further ado, we've had such a great winter season the last couple of years. Coach Lichtenstein and his staff has worked extremely hard the last 7 or 8 years getting this program on track. In the last 3 consecutive years, we'd have sectional champions. So our latest sectional champion this year rose to the occasion at the 99 pounds. It was Justin Morales. So Justin, come on up and accept your certificate. Justin, we have Justin for a couple more years here. We had a great talk outside. He went up to Albany. I was so proud to see him up there. He had such great matches up there. He had a great experience. And it's just giving him more fuel to the fire for the next couple of years because he has a load of potential. And just not only just on the mat, but in the classroom being a leader as well as being a leader in our community. So we're extremely proud of him and his family and his coaching staff. Thank you, Justin.
I think on to recognitions, right. Odyssey the Mine in abroad, and I want to thank Mrs. Tobiasen for representing us in Goshen on the day of the Odyssey of the Mine. Unfortunately, some of us were tied up on other school events that day, but thank you, Mrs. Tobiasen, for doing that.
Not to belabor the point, Mr. Perino, because I know we want to move on, but I have to say how very proud I am of where Middletown has come. When I first came on this board 13 years ago, we did not have an Odyssey of the Mind team. Because of budget cuts and that, it had been removed. And fought hard to have it put back, and administration listened, and I can't tell you how proud I am. We came with even shirts this year that said Midi Pride on them, and the strides that the teams have made in the short time that they've been back competing, I am so very, very proud of you. So my sincerest congratulations to all of you. You are all winners.
You know, before we begin the Odyssey of the Mind, I just like to say I want to thank all the coaches that are here tonight. You do an excellent job. And I know of your dedication. You work many, many long hours. And also the athletes. Again, you're out there working hard for yourselves and for the district. And if there's any parents tonight, you also should be congratulated, because I know you have to sort of tailor your schedule around the athlete. So good for you. Thank you so much for what you do. And of course, when I mention coaches, I include the head coach, as I see it, David Coates. Dave, you've done a remarkable job since you've been here. Believe me, you've carried the district to another level. Your professionalism is well known. Thank you so much. Now we'll go on. I'm sorry, Ms. Sprott. We'll go on to you, and also I can say the same thing about you as I did about Dave Coates. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you so much, Superintendent Del Moro. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mrs. Creedon, President Perino, Bishop Williams, and esteemed members of the Middletown Board of Education. It is an absolute delight, pleasure, and honor to be here this evening to have a moment to recognize a different type of competition, which is Odyssey of the Mind. And the number of students that we've had this year from the schools participate, I'll speak about that briefly, and the wonderful community and parent support, as well as school staff and building administration. It truly has been an honor to watch Middletown grow in this competition. That's not only a county competition, we're considered Region 5 for the area, but also a state competition where the students can move on to nationals, etc. This year in particular, we had 7 teams. I'm just going to say that one more time. 7 teams represented, yes, representing our district for their academic creativity, smarts of such a diverse group of students. So Odyssey of the Mind really is just that. It's a competition of putting all of your ideas, your thoughts together, and learning how to not only shine and be a risk taker as an individual, but also learning how to work together as part of a team, to be unified, to show that there is strength in numbers, and to come together as one. And if anything that Middletown embodies, it's that we're very diverse, but able to come together and to work together as a team with high expectations, and also just shine in the time of competition or diversity. And that's truly was shown by our athletes today. And here I am going to talk about those 7 teams. What we had this year for Odyssey of the Mind that competed at Orange County BOCES down in Goshen. We had 2 teams from William A. Carter this year. We had 1 team from Presidential Park. We had 1 team from Maple Hill. We had 2 teams from Monhegan Middle School. And we also had 1 team from Twin Towers. And just so you know a little bit more about this, the children had to actually audition. They had to put themselves out there and say, you know, I want to be a part of this competition. I'm going to bring my best forward, and I'm going to be part of that team to enrich and represent our district. That's not an easy thing to do. at a young age. And it just shows the strength, the confidence, the ability, and also the support that they have, not only within the school day, from their building administrators, but also from home, which I think is just a critical piece. Parents, you do a tremendous, tremendous job in supporting your students and your children, and just bringing them back and forth every day when there were practices, and staying late evenings, adjusting your schedule, and then taking time out of your busy weekend in your lives to show that you really love and care about your kids and support them. Is just, you should be applauded. And I wanted to take a moment to give the parents a round of applause for what they've done this evening. So one of the things that I had asked all of the building administrators and the principals to do, and we knew we were invited to really recognize the students this evening, was to say one or two special things about their team. And it was difficult because there's so much special about your children and about these students, that what I'm going to do this evening is actually call up, because there'll be a picture session as well, each school, and ask a building administrator, coach, etc., to come up as they introduce the children and also say something special about the students. So we're going to start off this evening with the kids showing off their custom t-shirts. And on that, I have to say that when it comes to the school, where this t-shirt was designed by one of our Odyssey of the Mind team members, that we also give a shout out to that student as well. Okay, so what they're sporting are custom midi shirts that were made for them, and we were such a strong presence, and it was very known this year, and we're very, very proud of all of you. Thank you so much for your continued support, coaches and teams. Thank you. So without further ado, I'd like to call the team from William A. Carter. We'll start with, if there's a building administrator, coach, to come on up and introduce your teammates and say one special thing, or more if you feel, welcome to do so. So this evening we have Kathy Jensen, who will be introducing one of her teams. There were two, so we'll start off with one. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Superintendent Del Moro, again, I have to say congratulations. I'm thrilled.
Thank you.
Ms. Frieden, Mr. Perino, Board of Education, thank you again so much for supporting the Odyssey of the Mind and for bringing them back. I'm so proud of Carter. We had so many children that wanted to be involved. We had to split into two teams. Mrs. Reed, come on up, and her partner, Mrs. McCullough, who's not here tonight, were the leaders of the 5th grade team. She's going to come up and introduce her team.
I just wanted to say how proud I am of these wonderful students here. Not only did they show such persistence in the face of some very outrageous problems that they're presented with when we finally get to this Odyssey of the Mind portion. I also wanted to say thank you to the parents for picking your students up, sometimes at 5:30, 4 days a week, and we cannot do it without you, so thank you so much for everything that you do. So today we have Emma Ackley, R.J. Sherman, Kennedy Moran, Brianna Bryan, and we also had 3 other team members who were not able to make it this evening, but all of these students did such a tremendous job. We had a 6th place finish out of 14, and the competition was so close that if we had 3 more points, we would have placed in 3rd place. So a tremendous improvement, and we are looking forward to next year.
And our 4th grade team was led by Mrs. Jen Mathias and her partner, Mrs. Sicko. So she's going to come up and introduce hers.
So first of all, I just want to say how proud I am of my team. We did a great job this year. The students worked together. They came up with a very creative and amazing skit, and I couldn't be more proud of them. I just also want to thank them for showing up to all those practices, for the parents for bringing them, and for our administration for allowing us to be in the building to do these practices. So with me, I have Kaylee Okapejo. Show your face. I have Amaya Elise Perez. And then I have 5 team members who were not able to make it. They are Kamar Smith. Sorry, I'm like blanking right now. I don't talk in front of people. Thank you. Anya Dunkley, Ryan, Alan Dawkins. Yeah, I don't do this. Bryce Williams and Madison Westbury. Thank you.
One of the key things is that they had to also, just so you know, a little bit of tidbit as they're getting ready for their picture as a Carter team. They competed with a long-term problem that they practiced for quite some time, and then they were put on the spot to compete against all of the other teams in a spontaneous problem, which really shows their ability to think on the spot, to problem solve, and work together as a team. So congratulations, Carter team, again. Okay. And next, I'd like to invite the team from Maple Hill Elementary School. And tonight we have Mrs. Driscoll and also the coaches and the kids.
Good evening. I'm going to allow the coaches to introduce the students, but before they do, I just wanted to say how impressed that I was with their work ethic. These people spent literally hours and hours of time. Even the coaches coming to me and saying, you know, I know it's a half day, but if the parents are willing to bring the kids back for practice at 5 o'clock, could we have a practice? And I said, sure, I'll be here. So, I mean, the dedication was really impressive, and the families were all in, and the students were all in. So I just want to congratulate everyone on all their hard work. Who would like to introduce? Miss Betty, you want to do the introductions? All right.
Hello, everybody. Ms. Driscoll is correct. We were at school forever. I think we were planning on camping. We were going to get some tents and cots and, you know, make camp. So our 7 teammates, they did an amazing job. It's really hard. People who are not part of Odyssey of the Mind, like, don't know. The problems are extremely difficult. I always was like, thank goodness I did not do this at 8 years old, because I wouldn't have. So our 7 teammates were Shardazak Chipman, Angelina Valdez, Sage Elliott, Emmanuel Leon, Diego Ruz, Kyle Williams, and Emily Bentonsis. Okay. Our team from Maple had 3 coaches, Vanessa Duddy, Jessica Miller, and Gloria Fisher. Our team came in 6 out of 15. It was a wild problem. We were aliens in outer space looking for some sort of treasure. They came up with an incredibly creative solution that none of us would have been able to do. So they did a really good job. So congratulations again.
Okay, just another tidbit of information about Odyssey of the Mind as we make the transition, that students could not have any assistance from adults at all. They had to problem solve, create everything from ready-made, easy-made, homemade items, etc. Otherwise, they would have been penalized, and our teams were very creative in that. Next, I'd like to call up the team from Presidential Park Elementary School. And we have Miss Short and her coaches.
Good evening, everybody. Oh, I don't have my little stand here, my little cheat stand. Hey, come on, what's that about? It's great to be here. Congratulations, Mr. Del Moro. It is so well-deserved. We are thrilled for you and thrilled for us in the district as well. I just want to say that to you. All righty, I'd like to introduce our coaches, Julie Nolan and Mildred Silva. They are a dynamic duo. They've been coaches for a couple of years now for us. And we're so proud of our team and how hard they worked. It's amazing all of the efforts that these children put out. And again, as Mrs. Broad said, they had to do it completely on their own, thanks to the parents who schlepped them back and forth every single day for all of these practices. And it makes such a difference for them. They will always remember this, I am very sure, no matter how old they get or where they go. They're going to remember that they competed in Odyssey of the Mind.
Thank you. I just wanted to tell you one special thing about our team, and that is the ability at the age of 10 to learn to be a part of a team, to learn to work together, create ideas together without complaining, and even if your idea is not picked, to learn how to take someone else's idea and run with it. And what an amazing life lesson to learn at the age of 10. And we really did become like a family. And when some of these kids move on to middle school, it's going to be very sad for us. We've worked with them for a few years. We will miss them. Our first is Alyssa Platero. Next, Morgan Cardinal. McKenna Beringer. John Fedelicio. Anthony Barone. And Ryan Guevara. And we have one other member, Layla Dawson, who can't be with us tonight. Thank you. Oh, we came in 4th place, by the way. But we actually beat the winning team in the one performance, in the long-term performance, the skit. We did beat the winning team. Just put that out there.
Well done.
Thank you. And as the transition continues, I do believe that it was a student from Presidential Park that designed the T-shirt. So that just shows the creativity. It was Alyssa, Alyssa Platero. Congratulations. Thank you, Alyssa. You've inspired us all. All right, next we have from the middle school level, we have the team from Monhegan Middle School. There are actually 2 teams. If we could have that group come on up, and we have the administrators and I believe a student or 2, or we'll see. Here they come. So the max you could have on a team was 7 students. Here we are. And this evening, I believe introducing will be Dean Schreiner and also Mr. Redonia.
Good evening, everyone. Congratulations, Superintendent Del Moro. Good evening, Board of Education, parents, and everyone here tonight. I will be reading something from Coach Moran, who was unable to attend tonight. Monhegan was fortunate enough to have 2 teams this year. After our trip to the state competition last year, there was a lot of interest, so we were fortunate enough to be able to have the 2 teams. The Team B this year came in 7th place. Team B competed in Problem 3, the classics problem called Muckentry Seriously. There are often 2 sides to every story in this problem. The team had to select a classic book from a given list and present different characters to humorous documentary-style performance where the dispute a part of the story. Monhegan's Team B decided to select Charlotte's Web. They created sets and backdrops to tell the story through live action, behind the scenes, and an interview portion on the stage of Oprah Winfrey. Their creativity came through with the use of costumes, makeup, and gymnastics routine. Team B consisted of Abigail Russell, Amora Ramos, Gabriela Cholito, Isabella Bobea, Brandon Woody, Morgan Revelis, and Liliana Rosa. Our Team A this year finished in 3rd place, so congratulations to Team A. They competed in Problem 1, the vehicle problem called Triathlon Travels. In this problem, the team had to design, ride on, and drive an original vehicle while scoring in a triathlon. They came up with a theme, Greek mythology, and ran with the idea. The team created a full centaur costume, multiple Greek gods and goddesses, and a performance to entertain the crowd between the triathlon events. In the track event, they had to drive their car through a maze, forwards and in reverse, to defeat the mighty Minotaur. In the curling event, they defeated Medusa. Last but not least, in the jousting event, they had to build a lance to knock over the Hydra, a job well done by both Monhegan Middle School teams. Team A consisted of Mackenzie Bailey, Jade Fontanez, Jenna Alexander, Elijah Fiel, Ethan Cardinal, Jalissa Ocasio, and Anastasia Yupa. Congratulations to both teams.
And last but not least, the team from Twin Towers Middle School. Twin Towers was under the guidance of Justine Thompson this year. Thank you, Justine. She's been an active parent for many years, so it was a pleasure and a delight to have her move up to the middle school to support Odyssey. And we also have Mr. Dean this evening joining us as well. Mr. Merritt is coming up too. Thank you.
Well, Mrs. Schwab, our coach, told me I get to talk first. My only real comment about this experience is Mrs. Brott mentioned how the students go into a, what do they call it when you go in there unannounced? Spontaneous, yes. And I thought about how as administrators, we often are called in by the superintendent, Mr. Del Moro, and we're hit with a challenge, and it's kind of spontaneous for us. But with us, it's usually like stump the chumps, and we're kind of at a loss for words. But these students in our team, I got to watch them practice several times. and they did extremely well, especially when Mrs. Schwab would throw all sorts of crazy ideas at them. And as typical strong middle school students, they jumped right into the task and performed extremely well. And now I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Schwab.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. Congratulations, Mr. Del Moro. I just want to say how proud I am of all of the Odyssey of the Mind teams. I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of the students on my team for 3 to 4 years because I started 4 years ago in the district with the Odyssey of the Mind when Lisa Calby asked me to coach, and I said, "You're crazy, no." And here I am. So my team, only 2 of my students could be here tonight, Allison Gonzalez and Parker Schwab. And I'm missing Kayla Hunter, James Cangelosi, David Adecora, Valerie Delvale, and David Hoagland. I'm so proud of these guys. They went above and beyond, and I couldn't be more happy. Thank you.
I just want to say on a final note, I've known Justine Schwab since high school, so that was just me knowing her for years and calling her by her maiden name, so, but it is Schwab. And just one more word of thanks to the Board of Education, Superintendent Del Moro, Mr. Tuttle as well, for the purchasing of these T-shirts for the team this year. Thank you, parents, and thank you, students.
As the Odyssey of the Mind teams are leaving and parents, the same thing that we said about the scholar athletes can be said about the members of the Odyssey of the Mind. Great work. I know you put in a lot of time, your parents put in a lot of time, and teachers put in a lot of time. You're to be congratulated. Thank you so much.
You know, I do think it's important for us to recognize the importance of the parent support, whether it's Odyssey of the Mind or on our athletic fields, because without that support, it's not possible to take them to and from practices, having meals perhaps at the end of the day prepared for them when they return home. So as always, our parent community is so critical to the success of all of our programs, and we are genuinely grateful for the parent support we do receive. Without you, our success really would not be possible. So many integral parts of success, you know, our teachers, obviously, but parent support is critical, and we look forward to continue working with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Del Moro. Now we come to the first opportunity to address the board. Remember, please sign in. 4-minute limit on this. So please step up to the plate, so to speak. Pastor Rue, would you like to step up? I think you, as I understand it, Pastor Wu, you have to leave shortly, correct?
Right, correct.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you. You want to step right up to the mic, so, okay, that other one, this one, okay, go ahead, you're good.
Good evening. I appeared before you 1 month ago asking for your support in organizing the March for Our Lives in Middletown so that the voices of our students can be heard. And you did provide the support and guidance in so many ways. Along with the great support from the City of Middletown, we were able to make significant impact in the greater Middletown area on March 24th. The police report about the size of the march was between 1,200 and 1,500. 9 out of the 13 speakers were current students in our school district. They are powerful, wise beyond our normal expectation on them, authentic, truthful, impactful. We certainly saw the children leading the adults in the clarion call for creating safer schools and communities. I've come back here this evening to thank Mr. Perino, Chair, and the members of the Board of Education for their support and guidance for this march. You have mobilized the entire school district to support this march. 2 of the board members joined the organizing team and worked every day to bring about a successful march, Mr. Vince Crescenzo and Ms. Bishop John Williams. Thank you so very much. We also worked very closely with the Superintendent, Mr. Richard Del Moro, and the Principal, Mrs. Sorrentino, and their faculty and staff. And thank you so very much. They were the connection between the adult organizing team and the students, including 1 elementary school student and 2 middle school students. Above all, it was a real privilege to have had an access to and be able to work with these unbelievably mature and committed student leaders and organizers. Their work and their speeches were a new benchmark for any public engagement and public speeches, and they were at the same level of potency and clarity as the young people currently receiving the national media attention. To have such high caliber students right in our midst, readily available to step onto the leadership roles, speaks loudly about the great job the Board of Education, the school administration, and all the teachers and staff have been doing all these years. We did not raise these students overnight by luck, but through many years of hard work of teaching, caring, motivating from 2-year kindergarten to high school senior years, so that they learn, grow, and do the right things. For that, I thank all of you for working in varied capacity in our school districts, as we have witnessed this evening. You are the nation builders and the nurturers of future, not only for our city and the nation, but for the world. As I was marching with the students and other concerned residents of the area, shouting and chanting, one of the chants that we did was a classical one. What does democracy look like? This is what democracy looks like. As I was chanting it, a slightly different question and answer came to my mind. What does a real education look like? This is what a real education looks like. The walkout and the march was only a beginning. The energy and the movement will continue to move forward. And I request the Board of Education and the school's administration to continue to support and guide these students as they lead all of us adults into what we have not been able to go thus far. On this, I hope we all become co-learners with the students. Thought about the mission statement of the school district, which reads in part, we will enable all students to graduate, to reach their full potential, to become lifelong learners, and to be competitive, productive members of society. I wonder out loud whether the last phrase, productive members of society, could be further spelled out to include becoming citizens of responsible civic engagement and leadership, as the students have shown to us and asking us to join them in becoming. In this process, I request the Board of Education and the school administration to help clarify 2 rather different understandings of becoming political. A common usage of being political has negative connotation of partisan politics, political games, kickbacks, and behind-the-scene dealings, collusions, and the like. Another, a more important meaning is becoming civically engaged in political arena, exercising the constitutional right and duty in the democratic decision-making process in all levels of governance, so that we ensure the will of the people are heard and the common will for all people are sustained and shared equitably, and indeed make sure that we sustain schools and communities safe. These students will, as they have already had, face criticism, taunts, mean comments, and pushback by detractors in order to kill their spirits and caricature them as being pawns of some political groups. I request that Board of Education protect them, help them claim the sacred democratic rights of political engagement for the good of all. This indeed is what a real education would look like. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pastor, and thank you for being the inspiration behind the march. And I also want to compliment you. I know St. Paul's Church does so much. You support the warming station. I know you have to leave for that, but not only that, the No Kid, the backpack program, the No Kid Hungry program, and many, many other fine community activities. It was just great, and the turnout for that march was outstanding, and it was orderly. And I want to thank again Bishop Williams and Mr. Crescenzo for acting as liaisons. So thank you, and I know we're going to have the organizers at the next meeting, and I understand you're going to be you're not available, but Mr. Bishop Williams said he would introduce the people. But thank you. Anything else we can do, please let us know.
Yes, continue to support students, let them lead us into the future.
Thank you. We intend to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Good night, sir. Good night. I'd just like to add that it would be remiss on our part if we also didn't thank Mrs. Sorrentino and her administrative team for all of the hard work and support to make this possible, as well as the teacher leaders working with the students. They worked very diligently in long hours in preparing the students for this. Also, it is important to note that both of the law enforcement agencies that support our school district, the Town of Walk Hill Police Department as well as the Middletown Police Department, was extremely supportive and helpful in this endeavor, and I want to thank them publicly for that, because as I mentioned earlier, none of this could be done in isolation, but in a community collaborative event, nothing is impossible. Thank you.
Thank you. We all agree on that. Thank you. You signed in, I know.
Yes.
Fine,
Right.
thank you.
I would like to say congratulations, Mr. Del Moro. And I also like to remind everyone out there that tomorrow night, this Friday, the NJROTC has their annual Tricky Tray. The doors open at 6 p.m. The calling begins at 7:30. It's $5 to get in, but if you wear green, you'll get in for $3, all right? It's always a great event. Also, this weekend, I know Twin Towers has their play. It's Little Mermaid, so I'm going to try to make it to both places. So I'm just letting you all know it's also going to be wonderful from what I hear. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Glickman.
Where is the tricky?
The Tricky Tray is at the Presidential Park.
Mrs. Knapp loves tricky trays. Mrs. Glickman, I just want to compliment you because I know I come here to events and meetings and you're still working. You're still working. You sometimes stay here to 7 o'clock, and after 7 you contact parents, and so it's much appreciated what you do. And you're up early in the morning and so on. So again, nice job that you've been doing. See, Mr. Dean, did you want to, I'm sorry, did you want to address the board, I believe? Yep.
Well, good evening. Again, Mr. Perino, President Perino, members of the board, Superintendent Del Moro. I'm standing here before you in my role as president of the Middletown Administrators Association to applaud and commend you for placing the future of this district into the hands of Mr. Del Moro. You have found out what this school community has known for quite a long time, that there are no more capable hands than his hands to rest the future of our children in. There's no one better prepared, no one well suited than Richard to lead us forward. On a personal note, I'd just like to mention that 21 years ago, when I first came here as a very much wet behind the ears school administrator, Richard was a mentor to me and a colleague as he changed positions or two and was over at Monhegan for a short spell. We worked together quite closely, and so I've got the pleasure to know him privately, working professionally for the betterment of our district as well as in public sessions. And there truly is no one that I've ever worked with in my 34 years who does not have, well, children always first and foremost in his heart. He can be very demanding of the adults that work with him, and he does not look for the what's convenient for adults. He looks what's best for children. He keeps that as a constant focus in every one of his decisions, whether it's in a private conversation or speaking before a large audience. And so I've been fortunate to work with him for the past 21 years, and this district is extremely fortunate to have had him for how long there, Richard? 30 what? How long you been around? 31 years?
I was 10 years old when I started.
Oh, that's right. And we are truly blessed that he will be with us at least for a few more years to keep us all headed in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Dean, and thank you what you do for the district on a continual basis. Thank you. Any other? Dr. Johnson.
My name is Paul Johnson. I always appreciate the opportunity to appear before you. Well. Well, if you were 10 when you came here, I was 12 when I hired you, okay? So we'll leave it at that. If you're happy, I'm happy. As an interested bystander, I couldn't be more pleased and be more congratulatory. As they said in the 70s, you've come a long way. I'll leave out the baby part. I'm also standing before you as a designated one of two liaisons to this austere body. There's two topics I'd like to address. One would be the SRO conversation. I've had a private consult with both the mayor and the chief for Middletown, and I know you're having a meeting tomorrow, I believe, with Chief Awanchu. The city is very interested in moving this project forward. We feel we have a lot to offer as far as dedicated full-time law enforcement staff, and then all of the services that the department has behind it. So we hope they come to fruition for the good of everyone, and we'll follow that dialogue. The other issue, you may or may not realize, the city has initiated an ID program, an ID card program. We had a lengty community meeting the other night under the leadership of Alderman Kleiner and the Communications Committee. The mayor initiated this idea as perhaps to induce civic pride, to have everybody have a card that designates that they're a member of our community. There's also a subset of the population that does not necessarily have a means of photo identification, and this community was represented quite robustly at the meeting the other night. So this is an idea. It does interact with school. One of the gentlemen that spoke talked about the fact that one day he was summoned to a school, not our district, but a neighboring district, because his child had taken ill. And the way he told the story, even though he was familiar to the school, when he got there, they said, if you want to take a child out of the building during the school day, you need to have photo identification of who you are. Now, I'm not sure what the regulations are for each and every district, but that was certainly one of the needs that was articulated, that people who don't have a driver's license and may be marginalized in some respects in our society would benefit by having a card. There are multiple spin-offs of how this program could work, whether it would be indeed used in a school setting, whether it would be used in a library setting, whether it could be used in a retail setting. But it's an idea, and we're moving along with it, and we'll try to figure out, as they say, the devil's in the details. So I thank you very much for the opportunity, and if anybody could address at some point the idea of a parent removing their child from school during the day at some point during the meeting, I would appreciate that. Once again, congratulations, Superintendent Del Moro.
Dr. Johnson?
Thank you, Dr. Johnson.
The ID cards, Dr. Johnson?
The ID cards would be for all ages, like
The
youth?
program that we put forth would be ages 14 and above. It would have a photograph, a date of birth, and address documenting that you're a resident of the city of Middletown.
Dr. Johnson, if you'd like to stay around, if you're staying around for the budget, the issue, the SROs are addressed in the budget this evening.
Perfect, then I'll be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to say something, Superintendent?
Yes, I know that Dr. Johnson asked about the procedures. We have initiated a photo ID identification for removal from a school during the school hours several years ago. And we work with parents to identify them, who they are, in the event that they do not have a photo ID at that moment in time, through a registration of individuals who can pick up children and verify it that way. But we do expect and demand photo ID as well.
Any other takers on first opportunity, address the board? Second opportunity will hopefully will concentrate on the input on the budget. Any other takers? First opportunity. Okay, let's move on. Personnel action items. If any letters, do we have one letter tonight? Go ahead. Thank you, Mrs. Clark. You want the mic?
This is from Rick and Sue Scott, who are the co-chairs of Pancake Day for the Kiwanis Club. They wrote this letter to Ms. Sorrentino. On behalf of the Middletown Kiwanis Club, I thank you for your support of our annual Pancake Day fundraiser held March 10th at the high school. It was a great day by all accounts. Not only was it a financial success for Kiwanis, it was a wonderful opportunity for many members of the community to see what a great school the Middletown High School is, and there were many positive comments expressed to us throughout the day. Students from the Key Club and the ROTC program did a terrific job in representing the student body. They were a great help to us in their capacity as servers and bus people, and our club would be hard-pressed to conduct this event without them. As always, many people commented on not only what a good job they were doing, but also how nice they all were. We are also grateful for your wonderful staff. Darcy has been doing this with us for so long now, it feels like she is a member. Again, thank you for the use of your wonderful facilities, as well as the support that you have shown for our event. We look forward to doing this again next year.
Thank you, Mrs. Clark, and I know members of our student body played a significant role in making the Kiwanis Pancake Breakfast a success, including the NJROTC and members of the Key Club in various levels. So thank you for reading that letter. Let's move on to personnel action items. If there's no objection, I ask that we approve personnel memorandums 20A, 20B, 20C, 20D, and 20E. Did you get that, Mrs. Clark? And of course, we have these on board docs. Are there any further questions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. No introductions this evening of personnel. Now we come to a very, very important part of the meeting, and all the others were important. The superintendent's proposed budget recommendations. I'm going to turn that over to Mr. Del Moro and Mr. Tuttle.
As we move forward to Super Tuesday and the district budget vote, I'd like to have Mr. Tuttle explain where we are at this point, summarize the line items that people will be voting on, in particular of most interested items to them. So we have put out salient points to the budget so that people understand what they would be voting on come shortly next month of May. Mr. Tuttle?
this is like the biggest crowd we've had.
Awesome. Shut those lights, Victor. Those lights. Good? Can you hear me? Okay. Hello, good evening. Mr. President, Mr. Perino, members of the board, Superintendent Del Moro, congratulations. It's going to be a great honor working with you. Ms. Creedon, tonight I'm going to present the budget overview, what we've been working on for the past, essentially you work on it over a whole year based on what you've learned about revenues and expenditures, and when you wait for the legislators to finalize their budget, and then you can actually come to some realization of what you're actually going to put forward. So I just want to emphasize this is our proposed budget. Tonight is the public input. If there's any questions or concerns about the budget process or proposals, they can come forward. At the next meeting, the board will need to adopt the budget. So here's our summary of what we're looking at for this year. You'll see some of the most important things up here for us right now. We do have a line for the SROs in there. We've allocated $700,000 at this point for that program. That's still a little tentative. We're still waiting for the final proposal, which we'll have tomorrow, and hopefully that'll be under our budget numbers. As we look at the administrative, we're up a little over 8.5%, mostly contractual. Our program, which consists of all of our instruction programs, our athletics, things of that nature, up over a little bit, 5.3%. Our capital, you'll see that's a big jump for us, but what we're doing in the budget this year, we're actually have some capital projects using our fund balance to pay for those capital projects, so you're seeing the money allocated in the capital line for that. Our benefits, you'll see a reduction there, and that is from last year. We were very aggressive about having our own self-funded health insurance plan. Last year, we saved $3 million by going self-funded, and then we're seeing another savings this year of over $1.1 million. And primarily, what we've been waiting for is the legislation, the Assembly and the Senate to pass legislation for us to have a $5 million reserve. At this moment, the Assembly has passed that bill, and it's at the Senate going through different houses, different stages of the process, and hopefully that'll be approved within a month or so. So that's kind of good news for us. That actually helps us in our budget lines once we have that $5 million reserve for health care. Again, I'll talk about the SROs. So right now we've allocated inside the budget $700,000. That would be for 7 SROs, one at each building, and then depending on the amount of days that we would need them, that's what we've allocated the budget for. Some of those things are still yet to be determined about the SROs. And based on some more conversations that we'll have tomorrow. We've met with the town of Wallkill. They gave us their proposal, and then we had a preliminary conversation with Middletown, City of Middletown, and that's what we've come up with this estimate for the year for next year. So overall, our total proposed budget summary is 5.82% increase over last year. You see a big number, primarily because I'll go back to where we have a capital projects embedded inside the budget. Okay, and then when I go into a couple of next slides, here's some of the proposed projects that we have inside the budget. We talked about these at the last meeting. One is to resurface the track. That's at $700,000. Replace the video board at $500,000. Replace the turf field at $775,000. and to re-renovate the library and entranceway into the high school at $2.2 million. So this is all money that we're using it from our fund balance. So there's actually zero cost to the property owners, and this will be inside of our budget. So if we look at our proposed budget overview, our expenditures must equal our revenues. So for this year, we're looking at $189,966,196 budget. Okay, so the budget increase from year to year is 5.5%. Our tax levy increase will be 1.87%. Our tax cap levy will be $75,878,805. And our tax levy increase will be $1,395,057. So we did a very good job. Our actual tax cap was over 2.6%. I'll show you on the next slide how we were able to use some reserves and some fund balance to help us offset the tax levy. On this slide, we have the budget request, additional budget requests. We had 3 additional bus stops, or 3 additional buses for our multiple tiering busing system to help increase the overcrowding of buses and to have more efficient bus routes. A math K-12 coordinator, a school psychologist at the high school, 1.5 FTE physical education teachers, and this is all due to increased enrollment in stations that the students can actually participate in at the high school. A technology teacher, that would be for like Project Lead the Way, engineering, those types of courses downstairs, Cisco. Looking at 2 special education teachers in the high school, 1 music teacher at the high school, and we've actually added, or looking to add 4 student engagement opportunities clubs at the elementary and middle school levels. We keep emphasizing that we're increased enrollment. So what we're dealing with now, after our demographer came in, we're looking at over the next 3 or 4 years, the high school is going to be over 2,400 to 2,500 students. So you're going to see, right now it's under 2,200, so you're going to see a big enrollment increase over the next couple of years at the high school. For the non-instructional side, looking at some more security aids, this is 3 FTEs, but it could be 6 part-time FTEs. Okay, an additional 0.5 clerical at the high school, additional 0.5 clerical in technology, some part-time cleaners to help with increased meal services throughout the day, and 1 utility tradesman to help. We just need some more skilled staff in the district with all the facilities. So some of the things that we've done, as I said before, we were able to have a health benefit savings over $1.2 million. We're using unappropriated fund balance, $5,799,227. Using our workers' comp reserve at $500,000 and our employee retirement reserve at $500,000. So using these fund balance and these reserves, we're able to offset our tax levy and have it under 2% at 1.87%. Some things to remember moving forward. Our budget adoption is April 19th. The board will vote to adopt the budget. We'll have a budget hearing on May 3rd, and then the budget vote Tuesday, May 15th. And then please contact our district clerk, 326-1196, if you need a place to vote. If you move residencies, you may vote in a different place. It's important to make sure you have the right paperwork so you can vote in the right facility. And that's all I have. Anybody questions or concerns? Go ahead. Pastor. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, you want to go back up on the stage? What do you want to do here? Yeah, whatever you want to do. Okay. Okay.
Right now, if I did it, I'd probably break my neck and get about halfway. It would kill me.
Why don't we go around the table if there are any questions on the budget? I must say, in looking at this budget, the lowest tax levy that I ever remember in all the years I've been on the board, and more added to the budget without any cuts, and adding staff, adding the improvements to the district into it, and a big item, of course, the SROs. And no student in any grade is worth more than another, and this is why we intend to put an SRO in each of our buildings as another level of security. So I'm going to go around now, and why don't we start with, let's start with Mr. Gomez. Who's got the timer? Who's timing here tonight? Go ahead, Mr. Gomez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Okay, I see they're going to time me. Okay. First, I'm very humble, honored, and proud to be part of a school board that recognizes the importance of our students' safety. When I ran for the school board, one of the issues that was dear to my heart as a parent was making sure that when it comes to budgets, that school safety be a priority, not just at the school board level, but also at the state level, federal level. I'm very happy that our school district has moved forward in that direction, establishing funding for the SROs. That's one of many steps, I think, that need to be taken to ensure that school safety is a specialty. Because I think at the end, if our children are not safe, if our school districts are not safe, nothing else matters. And by taking the steps, I think we're all winners. And I hope that the legislature, as well as the Congress, will act, making sure that the resources will always be there for this, a much-needed priority here and across our country. So I want to express my appreciation for the leadership of Dr. Del Moro, and first congratulate Dr. Del Moro as being the captain of this wonderful ship, and for his leadership on this matter, and President Perino, who's been very vocal with it. Also, with respect to the overall budget, yes, the principal expenditures must equal revenue. I think it's based on an underlying principle of government living within its means. And we do that by making sure that money is spent efficiently. And the fact that we have a budget that promotes, number one, in academic excellence and infrastructure, as well as already said, school safety, shows that we have, I think, strong vision and commitment to give the best to our children and to use in a very wise manner our taxpayer money without creating any further burden. So I want to commend our district for that. And let me just say, I think, congratulate Mr. Tuttle, and I'm sure down the road in the future, there will be a future president who could use his expertise as a budget negotiator, because he does a great job for our children in our school district.
I'm sorry, thank you, Mr. Gomez. As Mr. Tuttle indicated, work starts on the budget not 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. It starts in October, really. He starts working on this budget. So good job again, Mr. Tuttle. Thank you again, Mr. Gomez. Mrs. Tobiasen, go ahead.
I just want to say I've sat on this board for, I guess it's 13 years, and I can't be prouder of the decisions that have been made this evening, beginning with my congratulations to Mr. Del Moro. And when I look at the budget, I don't know how you did it, Mike, but I am so proud to see that we came in below 2%, and with all of the programs that we have for our students, everyone has done a marvelous job. And if anyone has any concerns, I would find it difficult. Yes, John, I would find it difficult because John knows I'm pretty conservative when it comes to the board and with spending and that. So excellent, excellent job. I can't thank you enough. And Mike, your presentation was right on. So thank you.
See, again, it goes back, we discussed fund balance at a couple meetings ago. If you didn't have, and you don't build an unappropriated fund balance, an appropriated one, you're going to be in trouble. And there were schools in the news that are in trouble locally because they run out of money. So this is it, and we don't want to be in that position, because then you have to start cutting staff and you have to start cutting programs, very valuable programs. So that's good. Why don't we start with we'll go around at the Vince. Go ahead.
I don't have any questions. We've covered this at length over the last month or so. But, this budget didn't just happen this year. This is the culmination of 14 years of strategic planning, knowing what's important and where to go with it. And as someone said, this process didn't just start a couple of months ago or a couple of weeks ago. It's ongoing. It's a yearly kind of thing. And it's amazing what you've done, Mr. Tuttle, and everyone else who's worked on this budget. But one thing I want to make, my opinion, I want to make this clear. I hope people don't get the impression that we desperately need an SRO in our buildings to make our buildings safe. Our buildings are incredibly safe. The program and the planning, what have you, is constant. It never stops. We have security aides working in our buildings. The plans and what have you are totally ongoing. You can't talk a lot about what is planned for obvious reasons. It has to be kept within the district. So the SRO is, in my opinion, is just one more layer on top of an already very sound program. Your children are safe. When they come to our school, your children are safe. So having the one police officer in each building, what I see, more so maybe than the policeman in the building, is the police car outside. So whoever drives by, you see that there. So you know there's a presence in our building, in all of our buildings. Hopefully the SRO, these officers are very well trained. They don't just come in from the police department. They have to do a week's intensive training on how to be a school resource officer. Not everybody qualifies. You have to have the right disposition, the right demeanor to be in this position. And I believe the way it looks like our contract with the municipalities, these are going to be relatively young officers, which I think is a plus. Hopefully they'll be able to relate with our students. I worked at O.C.I.A.A for 33 years, and for 2 years we had an SRO from Goshen, and he was really an important part of our program. He got to know the kids, they trusted him, they confided in him, and you can stop problems before they actually start. So I fully support the SRO program, but again, you have to know, you should know that our buildings are safe, that when your children walk through the door, they're in a safe environment. Thank you.
Well said, Mr. Crescenzo. Ms. Blumenauer.
So much to think about this time of year. Usually at this point, this time of year, I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, we've got to go out and try to pass this budget, and where are we going to come in to make it reasonable and palatable and acceptable to the community. And we look to our administrators to put that package together and be able to make it comprehensive and easily understood for anyone who needs to look at it. Even though I've been sitting here, this is my 6th budget season, we have questions. There's someone who's sitting here for the first year looking at it and saying, okay, and trying to dissect what everything means and where the money goes and what is administrative and what is capital. And it's a huge project that we start early. We start those conversations, and we did, and I echo my fellow board members in their comments. This year, the state came through for us. Usually this time of year, I'm yelling about the fact that the state didn't come through for us. So I wanted to just take a moment to say thank you, because obviously, I feel like If the state is going to invest in what we're doing at that level, it's almost a little bit of validation that we're doing a good job and putting good money after good money. And it's our job to make sure that that money is spent wisely. So I just wanted to say that in reference to the state budget. SROs, I think that there isn't one person sitting here at this table that would have said no to bringing SROs into our buildings at any point in the past couple of years, from the point where we lost them because we really just did not have the money, and we would have had to start cutting programs and moving things around, and it would have been at great loss in order to put this together. This particular year, it's an ability, but it's only one piece of the puzzle to making sure that our schools are safe. And as Mr. Crescenzo just said, our buildings are safe because over the past few years, we've beefed up the security in our buildings. We've been ongoing, making sure that we're keeping up with what the market is bearing, unfortunately. If somebody wants to get into a building, if somebody wants to do damage, you can be sure they're going to do damage, and we've all been witness to that the past couple of months, heartbreakingly, unfortunately. I happen to know personally people who have a student that was in the Parkland school at the time of the shooting, and it really brings it home. So I think that, like I said, I just feel that this is only one part. The SROs, the security of our buildings, the safety, the safety of the plant. But we also need to be looking, and I think that we are in this budget, looking at the community schools as a big part and taking advantage of the community schools and bringing in support for our students who are needing support for students who need that, emotional support, making sure that we're seeing it from all ends, not just the intruder, but how to keep our student body safe from within is just as important. And I believe that we do a good job. We're doing a good job of making sure that that happens. Thank you to our team, of course. Congratulations, Mr. Del Moro. Wish you the best of luck. And let's just keep going from strength to strength. Middletown's a great place to be, great place to live. I love it here. I raised my children here, and hope to continue and be a strong voice on this board. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Mrs. Ucks.
So, yes, this is my first year, my first budget. I would like to first say thank you, Mr. Del Moro, for stepping in, and you started out with doing a wonderful job. It was a whirlwind, your first meeting, and you have done a wonderful job. I know we're going to see you take off and do a wonderful job. I just know that this is the right move. Thank you so much. And as far as our budget, I do agree. Being the first year, there's a lot of questions in my mind. I do have to say, Mr. Tuttle, as in watching, I know that you have done a really good job in making sure that each time that we sit down, giving us all the answers and making sure that you answer all of our questions. That is not my question in any form or manner. I do say that as far as SROs come and go, my biggest thing here is making sure that I don't want to put up anything that is just going to be fleeting. I don't want to sit here and say that we're going to put this here and that this is only going to be for a year or 2 years. I want to make sure that just like anything that we've done that is here to stay, the last time we did this, it wasn't able to stay. So that is my biggest concern, is that as we move forward with this, that just like all of our other programs, we're able to make sure that we are able to put this in and that we're not going to lose it in any way, shape, or form. And so I guess that's where when we sit down with, and you come back, with all the other information and we look over everything, that's going to be my biggest concern moving forward. I just don't want to, everything else I'm really happy with.
Thank you, Mr. Suggs, for those comments. Bishop Williams?
My 5 years on this board, I have to be honest, that my first year coming in, and I've said this many times before, is that I was like a deer caught in headlights, and I was completely overwhelmed. I'm grateful to the board members back then, like Mr. Will Geiger and Mr. Warren and Mr. Estrada, who kind of helped me through that process. And I'll say this with this budget, for our first year board members, you got it good. You got it real good. The first couple years on this board, it was tough. It was tough trying to first of all trying to figure it out. But it was even tougher to have to make decisions on what we had to figure out, especially when you're getting such crazy input from different individuals, and then of course the input of the community. And what I found to be one of the hardest things to do, but it was necessary to do, was to understand that for every decision you make, there's going to be somebody that likes it, and there's going to be somebody that doesn't like it. And that hasn't changed. That hasn't changed. There's still going to be somebody that will not like this budget. But I have to say that we are in such a good place right now as it relates to this budget. We're a place that we've never been. And I wasn't just a Johnny-come-lately on the board. I watched the board for a number of years prior, and there was many times before I was on this board, I was sitting out, the only one sitting out in the audience. And they would look at me and they say, is there anybody in the public that wants to speak? And everyone will look at me. I'll be like, what? But I'm so grateful that we are able to do this. The state did step up for us, as Mrs. Blumenauer said, but that didn't come without hard work. We've had individuals who have sat at this table, and even to go back to say, we would tease him so much, but it was truth. But we would always say, I would always say, I'm going to get Dr. Eastwood a soapbox to stand on. But he was passionate about being very vocal about fair funding. Mr. Warren is sitting out in the audience, our former board member, former board president, who worked diligently and worked hard for fair funding for our district. And so what we're seeing and experiencing now, I'm finding, and this is for the public, what we're seeing and experiencing now is the hard work of individuals that came before us and helped to build this foundation. I'm looking at this, and just to make clarification for anybody who wonders, because they look at increases and have a question about increases, but you've got to understand that everything gets more expensive. This winter, I've had the most expensive heating bill I've ever gotten from Orange and Rockland this winter, I've ever had. I sat back and I said, my goodness, I'm going to have to sell one of my children. I don't know which one. It ain't going to be the girl. But yeah, I know. then we look at it. There are within the administrative increases. They're contractual. They're things that we can't escape because they're contractual. Programming. We're moving forward in our programming. We're not staying stagnant. I said something a little bit earlier. Is one thing to maintain, but to maintain means that sometimes you're stagnant. Not all the time, but for the most part, when I hear the word maintain, it means that we're staying at an even pace. But we haven't been mandated to stay still. We've been mandated to progress and to move forward, and that's the thing that even we as a board collectively said earlier this year over this next 5-year plan. And so that's what you're seeing in the programming and the capital, in which there is no stress at all to fulfill these capital projects to the public. And there is also the answer of the fund balance question that people have tried to pose. We are able to do the things that's necessary to keep this district moving forward, to keep the education that our children so greatly deserve. And now we're here dealing with the SRO issue. I look at this in two ways. When we were going through our swatting issues, I stood as a parent, even when other parents were coming in and had what they had to say. I stood as a parent during that time and said that as a parent with 3 children who are in 3 different buildings at the time, I had the utmost confidence in our staff and the processes that we were using in order to keep our children safe. And we didn't stop there. We continued to improve on it. And I still have that same degree of confidence with or without SROs. However, I think that it's a wonderful thing to have the SROs come in. We had our reasoning for not having it the last couple of years. It was legitimate reasons. It was legitimate reasons, budget-wise, and I'm gonna be honest. No one likes to. Sometimes people don't like to address the elephant that's in the room. I'll be honest. It was also relationship reasons as to why certain things didn't come. I think sometimes you can be a bull in a china shop and break everything up, and I think that sometimes the way that things were handled in the process of that, sometimes it caused some issues with us having the trust issues for everybody that was presenting the whole SRO debate. But I do believe that this move that we're making is a great move. We're able to fold it into our budget, also with the idea of knowing that as the state and the federal are moving forward to try to find ways to alleviate that aspect of our expenses in the budget for us. So I think it's here for a long time to say. And I'll add this: I think this is also a way of finding a way to heal some of the mend some of the broken bridges and the misconceptions and the problems that we've experienced over the last couple of years. Nothing changes unless you confront it, and we're confronting the issue. We want the children, we want the families, we want the parents to all feel at ease and comfortable with knowing that their children are protected and they are cared about. And sometimes that takes for us as adults to put aside issues with one another in order to recognize that it's not about us at the end of the day. It's about the kids. And so I'm looking at the budget, and I've watched every step of it. I've looked at all the different pieces of it. Mike has done such a great job at keeping us informed and showing us all the pieces and laying it out for us meeting after meeting. And so thank you, sir, for doing such a great job. Again, like I said, there's going to be those that will not be happy, but I tend to believe that for the most part, there's more that's for us than that are against us. And I will not address naysayers directly. I will continue to encourage the positive, encourage the betterment and the greater good. So we're going into this, we've got to adopt this in our next meeting. And I think that, and I'll say this and I'm done, I think that the evidence of the fact that we are doing what we're supposed to do and doing our due diligence is in the fact that right now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I don't know, 7, 8 people sitting out there looking at us. And we're here in this big auditorium. And I think that's evidence that we're doing our due diligence. I would expect that if there was a problem, we were dealing with this issue 5 years ago, 4 years ago. It was a packed house in here, and everybody had something to say. But we're doing what's right, and there's somebody out there that knows that we're trying and striving. Is everything perfect? No, everything's not perfect, but we are adjusting, we're moving, and we're pressing forward. And so, congratulations to our administration. I'm sure there'll be more things that will come up and things that we have to deal with, but you've done such a good job. So thank you, and let's make this happen.
You know, there's always people, thank you, Bishop Williams, there's always people not satisfied for one reason or another. The article on fund balance that appeared a couple of weeks ago, one of the board members said somebody told them that's BS. Well, if it's BS, I can't do anything about it. I mean, you see the results of it in the conservative investing over the years, and this is a result when you do that. You have money to put into the budget to lower the tax levy. You use some of your unappropriated fund balance, and we've used $5.2 million of it this year, getting down to 5.7, getting down to brass tacks. All right, I don't have that in front of me. 5.8. But 5.8, okay, 5.8. So that's a great job there. You know, there's a district, and I hope they're successful, voting this evening. And there were ads in the paper. Together we can fix overcrowded schools, outdated classrooms, failing heating and cooling systems, flooded offices and gymnasiums, unsafe and unsuitable athletic facilities, and much more. You don't want to get in that position ever again. You want to be preventative. You want to make constant and continuous improvements to our buildings, and we're doing that in this budget through the normal budgetary process. On the other hand, you don't want to run down your fund balance. It's like money in the bank. I mean, maybe some people live without money in the bank. I try not that on much, but I try to keep a reserve, and that's what the reserve is for. We've used the reserves in the past, for example, when a boiler goes out in the middle of the year, or a hot water heater. Now, in a school, the boilers and hot water heaters aren't $1,000. They're a lot of money, many, many thousands of dollars. But you have to have this. If you don't do this, and you have to go out and borrow in the market, it's very, very expensive. We have a excellent Moody's rating. I think it's what, Mike? AAB? Moody's rating, what is that? AA3, okay. And that determines what you have to pay when you have to go out and bond. So, good job again. Let's keep up the good work, and let's keep this district moving forward, because if you don't like this budget, I guarantee you're not going to like any. So, that we'll be voting on this the 19th. And just a word, Bishop Williams mentioned Dr. Eastwood, I believe. You know, Dr. Eastwood has been named by the Commissioner of Education, Commissioner Elia, a distinguished educator for the Rochester School District, which means he's going to be developing plans to improve that district. And if you look at the Rochester district now, this is how we were 14 years ago. Low graduation rates, not making much progress in the ENL and ELL programs. One of only 5 districts in the state with 20% or more of the schools have been placed in receivership. On and on. Again, I never want to go back to this. Never, ever, even if I'm not on the board. And the way not to go back to this, we've done it, we've seen it tonight, with a very conservative and a very good budget and an increase in our programs and a low tax levy. So that's all I have to say, and thank you, and we'll now go on. The next second opportunity to address the board, and this opportunity is designated as public's budget input. So anybody like to go to the mic and address the board on the budget input? Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Marianne Jewell. I have a sophomore here at the high school who has, I have to say, been extremely successful in part to the special education department. But that's not why I'm here. I have a question regarding the school resource officers, and that is that the budget plans for 5, and I guess that would allocate 1 per building.
For the budget plans for 7.
Oh, for 7. So how many would that be here at the high school?
1.
So it's 1 in every building. Sorry, I had the numbers wrong. So my question is, in a building that's smaller, say Carter Elementary, how are we kind of distributing that ratio? So how are they going to be as effective in a building with 2,200 kids as opposed to a building that, say, may 500 kids? So that's one of my questions. And I think that's it.
Thank you. Do you want to answer that, Mike, or do you want me to answer it, or Mr. Del Moro, do you want to answer that? I can answer it, but go ahead.
You can, and then I'll answer. Go ahead.
You know, Marianne, as I say, it's a start. No school is more important than another school. You don't know what's going to happen today if some idiot takes it into their head to create an incident in a building. I understand 100% what you're saying, but also we have more security personnel in the high school than we do, for example, proportionally than we do for example, Truman Moon or one of our smaller buildings. So again, as Bishop Williams said, everything's not perfect, but we certainly we're certainly making a large improvement here. And you know, the SROs are not only to prevent or attempt to prevent incidents, but they build relationships with the staff. I mean, I've seen this many, many times with our DARE program. For example, Officer Beebe this year, the kids love working with her in the elementary grades. But I'm glad you raised the point. I'll let Mr. Del Moro.
Just to add on to what Ms. Perino said, that certainly that's an obvious question about the different enrollments in the buildings. And again, this is a start. But we also have to remember, in the building of this size, there is quite a number of security aides. And as you also saw in the budget proposal this evening, there will be 3 additional full-time security aides added to this building, which could then also be equalized out to 6 additional part-time if we choose to do that, so we have overlapping coverage. In addition to the 1 resource per building that is in this proposal at this time, in speaking both with Chief Iwanshu and Chief Hartman and the City of Middletown and the Town of Waukegan, in addition to the actual police officer and SRO program assigned to the building. They have assured us that they will provide additional support by having patrol cars at the arrival and dismissal of students at time, so that it's just not only the resource officer here and no one else will be supporting the schools. In addition, which has been started for the last 2 or 3 weeks now, maybe a little longer, in our positive relationships with both of those law enforcement agencies, the police officer walking in now, meeting with kids, sitting down in the cafeteria, in the hallways now, that's not going away. So those were vital questions that we asked each of the representatives from the 2 municipality law enforcement agencies, and they were readily to respond to the fact that they're going to maintain that. It's very helpful to building relationships. It helps them working in the community outside school hours with the students to get to know them, as Mr. Perino and other board members have mentioned. So please understand that on the surface that may not look equitable. I understand the question, but I can assure you that, as Mr. Costanzo said very aptly so, that's just a piece of our total program, and I just explained some of those issues regarding actual personnel in addition to the school resource officer. We also have over 700 cameras. We've hardened our entrances and exits and so on and so forth. But as far as personnel, we do have those additional supports that have been assured to us.
Can I add something to that? We deal with 2 municipalities, town of Walk Hill and Middletown. So Willie Carter, Monhagen, and Maple Hill would be covered by the town of Walk Hill. So it wouldn't be easy to move SROs around, like 2 in one building for whatever. So what we have now, I guess, I hope we answered your question, is the best of all worlds that we could possibly do at this time.
I wasn't necessarily looking to have an SRO, say, moved from, say, Carter on a
Right.
Tuesday to the high school. I was thinking more along ratio size, thinking that a building of this size with 2,200 kids requires a little more security. I guess that's not really the term. Every building requires the same amount of security, but more manpower than that of a smaller building.
Did we answer your question, though? Because of the increased security aids and what have you?
Absolutely.
Oh, good.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Mr. President?
You're welcome.
Mr. Perino? One brief comment. And yeah, in response also, right now there is, I believe, and Mr. Tuttle will clarify if I'm wrong, outside the budget that money that's being proposed or allocated from the school district as well as from the local municipalities, there is pending legislation at the state level supported, I believe, by both the Democratic leadership in the Assembly, the Republican leadership in the state Senate, and should that come to fruition, and I think there's enough momentum for bipartisan legislation, those will be additional funds. And the goal, I think, which was outlined by the Sheriff Carl Du Bois for Orange County, is to make it permanent funding. Should that come to fruition, there'll be additional resources come into a district to address the concern laid out by the parent from the high school. And in other words, we are looking forward for the state legislature, in the words of Winston Churchill, to give us the tools so we can finish the job.
Great. And I'm sure your Fair Funding Committee is right on that.
Yes, Fair Funding Committee is addressing the issue of unfunded mandates, as well as we were looking at the legislative breakdown as far as the budget, and we're planning down the road for the future to see if we could schedule meetings with both Assemblywoman Gunter and State Senator Bonasek to address our concerns concerning fair
Thank
funding.
You. Dr. Johnson.
My name is still Paul Johnson. Thank you very much. A couple of things with the points that were raised with respect to Vince. I think it's a point well taken. In my day job, I talk to lots of people. I've never really run into any parent who did not feel their children were safe, so I think it's a point well taken. As you've alluded, there are lots of things in place that we're not supposed to know about for obvious reasons. And I think all of the security protocols and policies that you have in place, including the photo ID at registration, are you're a little bit ahead of the curve on that. With respect to, as you mentioned, you do have jurisdictional issues because some of your schools are one municipality, more in the other, and those are some of the details that would need to be worked out. With respect to Bishop's remarks, yeah, there's an elephant in the room, but I think it left the room. I think our teams are more compatible, and not only at the local level are we more compatible, but I think our culture is ready to accept what we think we need to do. 10 years ago, that may not have been so easy, but unfortunately, conditions have changed, and it is another layer of protection that I think most people are comfortable with. With respect to Superintendent Del Moro's remarks, I think that's what Chief was referring to. We're really ready to talk about a complement of support issues, not just the one person there from 8 a.m. to 3:12 p.m. And lastly, with respect to the longevity issue of the program, the mayor has spoken to this in trying to get some legislation put in place to put the SRO spending outside of the budget cap. As you said, a couple of years ago, you really couldn't see the money to do that. $701,000, $999.24 is a lot of things. And what if you do find an issue down the road where you can't really allocate that money for that? And if we could have the, both at the municipal level and the school level, if that spending for SROs could be allocated outside the budget, so you could still have your 1.87% and still maintain the program, I think we're having conversations both with John and Aileen along those lines. And once again, the time may be right to move all of these initiatives forward. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Mr. Warren.
Good evening. I got to say I'm going to reiterate some of the things that were already discussed, but I'm happy to see you, and by the way, congratulations, Mr. Del Moro.
Thank you, Ms. Warren. Thank you.
I'm happy to see you in a position to be able to discuss SROs in a financial position, I should say. I worry that, and it was already discussed, that the zeitgeist changes and the winds shift and the priorities placed today by society, move. It's all about money. We know that. I would love to see this, that the feds or the state legislature come up and allocate the funds and outside of your budget, which is something that Dr. Johnson just mentioned as well, because we know we used to have SROs here years ago, but then the budget conditions changed. We know this is all cyclical, and shifting ebbs and flows and tides of traumas in the world. Something else could replace what we're all experiencing today, and I worry that goes away and there isn't anything in place that can fix this, fix the financing end of things. I'm hopeful that doesn't change, because most of you have already, in the past years, have experienced the budget cycles that weren't so fortuitous for the district. And you had this house packed with people who were concerned over various programs at the same time. So I'm happy to see you guys in the position you're in. And I understand, and Mrs. Jewell left, but we're not able to talk about, you're not able to talk about things that are in place. Some of them I know of because I was on the board when we were doing and hardening the buildings and the security. Our buildings are a lot safer than a lot of other districts just in this area. And maybe some of you have been in those other districts' buildings like I was in the past, and you see things that are in place there that it's different than what we have. I would hope that maybe parents like Mrs. Jewell, if they went to another district and saw how things are different, they might realize how much safer it is here. Not to disparage other districts. All districts have funding issues, and they have to allocate it where they can. But that money spent a few years ago, the $1.5 million, I think it was, where district-wide all the buildings and the exteriors were hardened, great stuff, and I think that gets lost sometimes. People get complacent and they see what's here, but they don't see what's elsewhere. So I want to thank you all for all of the hard work, Mr. Tuttle, Mrs. Creedon, all the board members, all the administrators throughout the district, and all staff, teachers, everybody who had input. Mr. Coates, how are you? And for all of your due diligence with putting together a budget that the community can be happy with. And you don't see them here, but it's because they're happy. If they weren't, this place would be packed. So be happy, be pleased with the fact that you've got an empty house. So thank you all.
Let's not
Thank you,
get
Mr.
horse in the
Warren, and
mouth.
thank you for your service to the district over the years.
Thank you. Just to add, to that, and sometimes I remember my father saying, you shouldn't blow your horn very well, have others recognize. But I think I would be remiss if I didn't mention that yesterday, Mr. Tuttle, Mr. Creed, and I were at a county-wide safety meeting with all law enforcement agencies in the county, as well as superintendents, assistant superintendents, superintendents of building and grounds, business administrators, business superintendents, et cetera, talking about security. And we were recognized by the Commissioner of Emergency Services of the county for being a school district ahead of the curve in many of these issues. In particular, if anyone wanted to know about how to deal with swatting calls coming into the school district that are not nefarious in nature, please call Middletown. In addition to that, I'm going to leave nameless a local law enforcement high executive indicating that we are in a much better shape than many of the school districts in this county. So I only reiterate what I mentioned earlier. Building upon those successes, we will always look forward and not stay stagnant, because they really, if you think about it, being stagnant means you're moving backwards, and we don't want to do that. We have room to improvement. We will continue to do that, evaluate all our programs, but children are safe in our school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Del Moro. Anyone else on the budget? Okay, if there's no one else, let's move on to the action items. First action item, motion to approve financial memorandum number 22 is presented and as we've had over the past week. Second on that? Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Approval of Special Service Memorandum 19. Motion to approve. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Approve of the Memorandum of Agreement with the MTA. Motion to approve the Memorandum of Agreement with the MTA is presented, in which we had discussed. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Approval of election worker. Motion to approve election worker Shauna Reeder for the 2017-2018 school year. Any discussion on this?
Yes. You know what my discussion is going to be. I look forward to the day when we can have one polling place. I know it's been discussed before, but I think there's a lot of confusion. And then when people do go to where they thought they should vote and they're told they can't vote, they basically throw their vote away. They don't move on to the place where they should be registered, whether it's due to a move or just not knowing where. I've advocated before, and I will continue to advocate that we have one polling place for this district. I think if we look at the numbers in the last few years, it certainly indicates that with the low turnout, we could do this, and I also think it would be a cost-saving message. It's only my 2 cents worth, but I shall advocate.
Thank you, Mr. Bison. My understanding there is a regulation that on this. Anybody? Maybe we can clarify that with our attorneys. Okay. Okay, good. So maybe we'll make some progress on that. So let's see. We had. We'll look into it. Yeah. So we had an Mr. Gomez?
I just have a question following Mr. Bison's comments. How, I'm sure the district could answer, Mr. Del Moro could answer. How accessible are absentee ballots for parents that, let's say, have commute to work? They leave very early in the morning and come back late, and then by the time they come home exhausted, and oh my God, today was election day.
They're very accessible. All you have to do, you call Taryn Clark, 326-1196, and she'll send you an absentee ballot. Correct, Mrs. Clark? Right.
Right.
Okay.
Send an application.
Application, and you fill it out.
Yeah, but do the children bring home like a notice to the parents, like telling them, the election's coming up, budget, school board members?
There's a notice. There's a notice that goes home that school budget vote. Obviously, by state of regulation, we cannot advocate one way or the other. But we do notify parents of the super budget vote. That yes.
And it's also put in the school newspaper. I recall that.
Yes, exactly. The marquees, websites, et cetera, multiple measures of communication.
Thank you. Good questions. Good follow-up on that.
Mr. Perino, there's a certain amount of civic responsibility here also. The polls are well advertised. There are a number of places where you could email, call, message, what have you, look on the website. They'll tell you exactly where you go to vote. So, it's civic responsibility as far as I'm concerned.
Mrs. Zuck, do you have a question?
I don't really have a question, but I did want to, for Rose, I agree. I would definitely like to look into that. We don't have that many people that come out, and the one polling place, it would save us some money, I believe. I would like to know a little bit more about that for follow-up, if you wouldn't mind.
I don't think that would be a good idea to plan for the amount of people that vote today that might be voting 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. That could change. That's a variable. So to say that there's a low voter turnout would require you could use one polling place. I don't think that's a good way to go.
I agree with you, Mr. Corzanza, that it is a person's civics responsibility, but I think it's very confusing. I think you and I found that when we were campaigning and going door to door, people really didn't know, and I think it was Andy Warren who gave us a list of where the polling places were for the particular areas that we went to. And I agree with you that you can't judge, but I think that our polls are open from 7 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock at night. And certainly, I think we could find a place that could accommodate. And again, it's just my concerns, and looking for a more feasible resolution to getting more people out to come out to vote if they knew it was at let's say the high school, if it was at the high school, if it was at the board office or wherever it was, but I just think there would be some type of encouragement for that, because some people, as much as you put out where they're supposed to go to vote, they're not going to look at it. They're going to go where they think they should go. And that's, you know.
But we do have one place that's big enough. I think we do have area that is big enough to accommodate and have parking that would accommodate for even if we did get larger crowds.
Let me put a positive spin on this, because I agree with both assessments. However, you know, my hope is that we find a way to engage the public enough that they will get involved. That's my hope and that's my goal. Especially in for me, especially in the African American community and the Hispanic community, to engage them more, to get involved. But let me put the positive spin on it. Controversy breeds participation. And since we haven't had controversy, we haven't had participation. You know what I mean? So, you know, I think we're in a good place. We had the last time that the largest turnout of voters that we had was 4 years ago.
I don't want to go back to the controversy days.
So let's be happy for what we got. You know, and let's not stir the hornet's nest, and just keep going the way we're going.
I think
Motion to approve. I'm sorry, do you have a question?
No, I think accessibility is my concern. We have a district that spans from the border of Crawford, that part of town of Walk-Hill, all the way to the border with Wawayanda. And we want to make sure that wherever we go down the future, I think they're all great ideas being discussed, that our school district voters, whether it be the elderly homeowners, the young parents sending children off to schools, or the teachers that live in our district, that it be accessible to them. And it doesn't benefit one part of the district more than the other. That all stakeholders, we the people, everybody out there could have access.
Of looking at this, I'm sure if you had it in one location, people would complain that it's not near where they live, as you mentioned. So you got to look at things both ways. And the first thing to do is I asked Superintendent Del Moro to check with our attorneys and see if we could have one polling place. My understanding in previous years, I think I've asked the question, and my understanding, no, we could not do this, but let's check it again. Well, I said, let's check it. We've debated this long enough. I want to go on. Okay? Now we have a motion. We have a motion on the floor. All in favor of Mrs. Reeder to be an election worker? Okay. We voted. Okay, let's go on. All right, let's vote right now. I'm going to have a roll call vote on this. Okay, you don't want a roll call vote on this? It seems so controversial that...
No, it's not, John, it's not against the person. It's just against that I was just looking, as I have in the past, to have one centralized polling place. That's all. I just said it was an opportunity to bring it up again. It's not against...
It's not against Mrs. Reed?
No.
All right, okay. So, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, finally, this passes.
We're sorry,
Approval
Mrs.
of a
Reeder.
resolution regarding employee 0003488. Be resolved that the board hereby authorizes the law firm of Bond, Shonik and King to commence legal proceedings to vacate and annul the decision of the hearing officer in the education law section 3020A involving employee number 0003488. We've discussed this as executive discussion, executive session discussion. A motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Approval to revise the 2017-2018 instructional calendar. Motion to approve the revision of the 2017-2018 instructional calendar as presented. Do we get a second on that? Yes. Any discussion? All in favor?
Can you just do a quick explanation of the revision to the calendar?
Go ahead, Mr. Del Moro. And Ms. Creedon, go ahead. Ms. Creedon, go ahead.
The only reason I ask is because we've done this a couple of times, and I know that right, 3 times. And so I just want it to be clear for our community of why. And so there isn't speculation on Facebook and the comments back and forth, and so.
Right. Absolutely. And I'll start just for the viewing audience by letting you know that tomorrow information will come home Backpack Express for kindergarten through grade 8 and grade 9 through 12. A letter will be mailed home. As well, information will be pushed out to student Chromebooks, grades 7 through 12, with information on the calendar changes, and all of the changes and related information, including the letters, will be posted on the district website tomorrow. So if my explanation still leaves some questions, those are some resources for you. So at the last board meeting, the district already approved changes to the calendar to reflect conference days that were scheduled at the elementary level. And in the rescheduling of those conferences, the March 7th conferences at the elementary level, which were rescheduled to March 21st, had to be rescheduled again because March 21st was unfortunately another snow day. So the new change this evening includes April 23rd becoming a shortened session day for students in grades K through 5 so that teachers can host family conferences on that day. In addition, the district will be hosting a shortened session day on May 25th. So May 25th is the Friday prior to Memorial Day, and so that day was previously a day off, and we're pulling that day back now in order to be in compliance with the state's 180-day regulation to meet state aid requirements. So May 25th will become a shortened session day, and then there'll be information put out tomorrow by Mrs. Sorrentino and her team at the high school to inform families of some changes in the date for the prom. And the next change that is new for this evening is that on June 25th, New York State put out a regulation over the last spring break, providing information to districts that because of the unusual conditions this winter causing many districts across the state to use all of their snow days and in many cases exceed their snow days allotted, the state is doing a one-time allowance for districts to use the day following graduation, which is Monday, June 25th in our case, as a countable day towards the 180-day requirement. So our district will be using that day as the superintendent's conference day. So those are the changes that are new this evening, although I do encourage families to go to the website and use the printed information we'll be mailing home as a resource, because there were some other minor shifts to conference days that were to be held in March that we approved at the last board meeting. So a comprehensive list is available on the website.
Other questions, Ms. Kumar?
Date for the parent-teacher for the elementary? My apologies.
The March 8th conferences have been rescheduled for April 20th.
Okay, great.
And the March 21st conferences, which were originally the March 7th conferences, have been moved to April 23rd.
Perfect.
Have that down pat, Mr.
Yeah.
Bowman? Okay, good.
I think one of the things that need to be addressed is that the reason that these days have to be made up is the loss of state aid. If they're not made up, the state says you have to go to school for 180 days. And if that's not fulfilled, then you will lose state aid for 1 day, 2 days, or I know some districts are really hurting, I don't
That's
know how they're
absolutely
going to
correct.
make them up, but
These days are on the calendar, be pulled back, if you will, or have school in session when you initially thought you would have a holiday or no school with students. However, due to the unusual inclement weather that beset all of the school districts during the month of March. Now, I bring that up because as you move into the school year or come closer to the end of the school year, you lose the opportunity to pull back days, and so you have to make them up whenever they're available for the remainder. So that is the reason why that Friday before Memorial Day on the Monday, we had initially a holiday. We have to make that a shortened session day so we can count it as one of the days, to your point, Mrs. Tobias, and so that we don't lose any state aid, because if we continue to have that a day off and we did not come to the 180 total at the end of the school term, we would lose a day's worth of student aid. And therefore, knowing that, the state allowed this year, because of the unusual inclement weather, to have conference day. If you did not use all of your 4 conference days, because there's a limit on the use of conference days, it's only permitted to 4. We did not have scheduled for 4 days. So we were able to schedule the conference day on the Monday following graduation to use that as one of the 180 days. That is permissible because the conference days for superintendent's conference days do count toward that 180. For staff only. Students will not have to come back after the graduation day. This is a conference day. Normally, that would be scheduled any time during the year for staff only.
Any other questions on this? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That was a nice loud aye. Let's see now. Any committee reports?
The Fair Funding Committee will meet this coming Tuesday, 4:30 at the district office.
Any other committee reports?
I got a quick one. Being the liaison to the Middletown Common Council, again, I've said this a number of times, we can't thank you enough. The march on the 24th would not have happened, I believe, without the support of the city. Everything you've done was just absolutely amazing, from blocking the streets, the police presence, moving the podium stage from Festival Park to the skateboard area. It was just absolutely incredible. It was seamless and flawless. It was like you planned it for months, and it was only a 3-week kind of thing. So again, Dr. Johnson, bring that back. I wasn't able to go to the board meeting this week, so please bring that back. Thank you so much for that.
Mr. President, I was at the last, I was at this board's meeting. I could brief on the meeting. I did attend the Common Council meeting this Tuesday, so let me just add to Mr. Crescenzo's remarks. Number of interesting things. Number one, I believe on the 14th, Saturday, April 14th, will be cleanup day in the city of Middletown, where residents from across our city go and help to make our city litter-free. That's spearheaded by my dear neighbor, Sue DePew, in the 2nd Ward, where she lives. And they'll be throughout city of Middletown. The Office of the Mayor will be awarding, I believe, civic awards for students or young people who participate. So that's something definitely for our kids to keep in mind, to come out on that Saturday morning and be involved. Also, Alderman Sierra was there, and he did bring up that the Orange County Legislature tomorrow at 10 a.m. will be convening, and they will be sponsoring a resolution calling on the state legislature to provide permanent funding for school safety officers and other school safety measures. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And we had the Recreation and Parks Commissioner did address the different summer activities available for our school children and citizens and residents of the city of Middletown. And the summer jobs applications are out there available for our kids who are already of age to work. An issue that was raised by President Rodriguez, which has been raised before by parents, is the question of when sports camp will return to the high school facility. And I've heard that from parents before. Maybe that's something that the board could address in the future. In executive session, the question of sports camp with respect to the high school facility. And then finally, there was a very outstanding rally in favor of the having a city ID card. I have prepared position papers in support of such legislation, and I'll be happy to share it with the board members, so to bring them up to speed and the benefits that offers our residents, especially young people, have in Middletown, having a city residence ID card. So that's pretty much it for today.
It's my understanding that the spring break sports camp was at the high school. That's my understanding. Am I correct on that? You're addressing the summer?
The summer camp. I know the Parks and Recreation Commission did emphasize that the school district has been working in conjunction with the city in addressing that question and of the continuing collaboration they have.
Right. We have worked and will continue to work with the City Department of Recreation for years, and if anyone is thinking about what happened last year, a year in advance to last year, we had notified, due to the multiple buildings under construction, we were advised not to have additional students in the buildings. And therefore, we knew that a year in advance to last summer of 17, June of 17, August of 17, etc. And we notified the city Parks and Recreation Department that the facilities will not be used only because of that reason, and that since we do not have that issue now, we will continue what we had in the past.
Let me bring clarification. I want to bring clarification to what I think it is in my estimation. I think President Rodriguez is alluding to the fact that the summer sports camp in the beginning of its start was held here at the high school, and it has since moved to Monhegan, and it's his desire to see it moved back to the high school. And I think that's the point. That's the only point that he's making. I don't think it's even a question of what happened last year anymore. That I think everyone has a better understanding, a good understanding of that. But that's a simple thing. That's his personal preference.
Right, and to their advantage, the Monhegan facilities is close to the pool that the students would like to use. And obviously, we know that the pool will not be accessible here during the summer because of the repairs.
So has that been brought out? Did you bring that out at the Common Council meeting about the pool repairs in the summer here?
No, we didn't address the pool question. It was a question that was raised by President Rodriguez to the Parks and Recreation Commissioner about because she alluded to the different sports camp activities at the Monhegan and other sites, and he raised the question about bringing it back to the high school. And it's an issue that he's raised before and other parents have raised. And I think probably has to do more with the facilities available at the high school. I mean, such as the Fowler Field, and making that accessible for sports camp in the future.
So, in other words, the fields, are they saying the fields aren't accessible at Monhegan?
No, it was just a question. I think Bishop Williams did address it clearly, have a hosting sports camp also at a high school in addition to the other sites.
Okay. Anything new and compelling? Motion to adjourn on the floor? Keisha, do you have something before we do this?
Yes, I just wanted to, for the high school PTO, they are hosting a fashion show for the prom. And it's going to be Friday, April 13th. The doors are going to open at 7 o'clock. For students, it's $3, and for adults, it's $5. And they're going to be working with with Fullers, who's going to be donating suits, and also they're going to be working with the Tabernacle, who does the dresses for free. So it's going to really be a great fashion show, and we're hoping that everyone comes out.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. I think we have a motion on the floor. Second? Motion to adjourn? So move. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.